I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is hands down my favorite superhero. He's relatable, likable, kind, amusing, and he's got a pair of versatile web shooters that go thwippity-thwip and are flat out awesome. So when I heard the announcement of a brand new Spider-Man game to release alongside the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie, my ears definitely perked. Even better, it was confirmed that Menace was crafting a more realistic web swinging mechanic that would be reminiscent of the highly regarded Spider-Man 2, rather than spinning webs in thin air. Reading Spider-Man comics or watching the movies is great, but actually getting to swing around New York as a wall crawler himself is a whole nother story, so I was pretty pumped to get my hands on the superhero adventure. Featuring a brand new storyline with the likes of Kraven the Hunter and the Kingpin, while also taking nuggets from the blockbuster movie by having Electro and Green Goblin thrown into the fold, this sequel will be giving you much of the same from the original, but Beanox took it upon themselves to make some significant changes to the core gameplay and mechanics to set itself apart and hopefully improve upon its predecessor. What makes the Spider-Man video game so enticing to players is the ability to freely swing from web to web in a giant open world, and fans have been waiting for the day when the superb web swinging mechanics from the classic Spider-Man 2 game would return, and Beanox tried to replicate that here, and I gotta give them props because it works really well. You may run into buildings dozens of times, but yes, it works. Each of Spider-Man's arms is mapped to the left or right trigger on the controller, creating a more natural Spider-Man feel that requires a certain amount of skill. Plus, your webs will need to be attached to something, so if you're high flying without any buildings around, prepare for a free fall. But the open sandbox world accompanied by fantastic webbing controls is definitely this game's high point, and thankfully there's enough to do in the city to keep you occupied, rather than it just being a means to swing from one mission to another. There are hundreds of comic book pages scattered throughout New York waiting to be found, and finding them unlocks real-life Spider-Man comic books that you can read, which is definitely a neat touch if you're a comic book reader. Plus, there are gang hangouts to trash where you'll go all Batman with stealth takedowns so that you can find new suits to add to your arsenal, each with their own unique stats, and also speed trials that test your web swinging and web rush skills, which, although being simple additions, are actually quite enjoyable. Probably the biggest addition to the overworld is the new hero or menace system. Throughout the city, crimes and disasters will constantly pop up, including such things as street violence, house fires, and car chases, and whether or not you will help out will affect your public image, labeling you as a hero or a menace. If you take the time to help out, you'll be granted stronger stat bonuses for your suits, while neglecting the citizens will erode those advantages and have the private task force coming after you with drones and web neutralizing traps. It is a neat concept on paper as it really captures the feeling of what a true superhero would do, but on the other hand, there are definitely some drawbacks here. For one, crimes just pop up way too often. You finish one crime and 4 more are knocking at the door, getting in the way of exploring the nooks and crannies of Manhattan, and slowly but surely you'll become a menace because you didn't take the time to stop and web up some bad guys. Plus, it doesn't help that the crimes get repetitive and are sometimes lengthy, whether that be because of loading times or the objectives themselves. It's fun the first couple of times beating up thugs, chasing cars and so forth, but the repetitive is going to set in, with the same scenarios popping up over and over and over and over. When you're not being all stealthy, you're going in full force with fiery fists, kicks, and webs as you fend off the countless thugs, and the game's core combat is very much the same as to what is found in the original Amazing Spider-Man, where it feels Beanox was heavily inspired by the Batman Arkham series. You'll pulverize groups of baddies, all the while dodging their punches and bullets via visual clues. The combat has even been beefed up slightly, as you can now perform critical strikes if you time your punches right, or even use different weapons to take down new enemy types, such as the giant tubby brutes or armored thugs. Now if you're playing the Wii U version, you've got a Wii U gamepad that works in a way that is very similar to Batman Arkham City Armored Edition. It of course supports off TV play, but it also acts as your smartphone, featuring a map of the city. But the problem with it is that it's way zoomed in, so you can only see your immediate surroundings. Added to that, you can't even slide your finger across the screen to scroll through the map, so you'll need to pause the game like the other versions to get a better picture. Other than that, the gamepad will also show you nifty messages from J. Jonah Jameson, allow you to sort through audio logs, and even upgrade Spider-Man's different abilities. I would have preferred the audio logs to play back to the gamepad speakers rather than the TV like in Batman to make it more immersive, but hey, not a big deal. The Wii U gamepad may not be used in the most creative of ways, but it at least works and is being utilized. Visually, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a mixed bag. Sometimes things look great, and other times they don't. Outside of the main cast of characters, not much care was put into all the different models for the NPCs and certain set pieces. Spidey also moves extremely fast through the city and the game isn't able to keep up. I frequently encounter buildings being void of any texture until a couple seconds later when the game finally catches up and the texture appears. On the other hand, some of Spider-Man's suits, such as the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie suit and Spider-Man 2099 suit, look fantastic, with light shimmering off their surfaces, and the giant city of Manhattan is bright, colorful, and inviting, so not everything is bad. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 features 14 missions that encompass its main storyline, and that will take around 5 to 7 hours to complete, but it also comes packed with a wealth of post-game content. There are 300 comic book pages to find, numerous audio logs hidden throughout each mission, side objectives where you take photos of specific items Jameson wants you to, speed trials, and more. Just because the main campaign ends doesn't mean there isn't anything else left for the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to do, and just being able to swing freely around the city is a treat. So overall, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not a half bad game, rather I had a fun time playing it. The redesigned web swinging mechanic really captures the essence of what it would be like being Spider-Man swinging throughout Manhattan, and the combat system, though less complex than the Batman Arkham series, is enjoyable. The game doesn't come without its faults though, namely the Hero and Menace feature that bogs the game down, but thegamingpixelshow.com is awarding The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with a 3.5 out of 5. And if you like what you saw, please give it a thumbs up and add your favorites and all that good stuff, and you can stay tuned for more news videos, video reviews, and that's on me for episodes. But I will talk to you later in the next video, guys. Bye!